everyone, good day and good morning, Ma'am Elenita. I am Norkeza Hajini Abdulajid from BSED English at 2A. Today I am going to discuss the Week 5 module in Literature 1. So first is, I am going to explain the various literary elements of children and adolescent literature. So, a character is a person, animal, being, creature, or thing in a story. Writers use characters to perform the actions and speak dialogue, moving the story along a plot line. Next is conflict. Conflict in a fiction, those problems are called conflict. More precisely, conflict means thwarted or in danger or opposing desire. It is basically when a character wants something but something else gets in the way. Maybe the character wants a thing but can get it into three things. The time, place, and circumstances in which something occurs or develops. The time and place of the action of a literary, dramatic, or cinematic work. The scenario used in a theatrical or film production. Next, number 4 is tone. Refers to the overall mode or attitude conveyed by the narrator, words choice in a story. Examples of a tone might be formal or informal, positive or negative. Lighter of dramatic. Next is number 5 is point of view. The writer ways of deciding who is telling the story to whom. Establishing a clear point of view is important because it dictates how your reader interprets characters, events, and other important details. Okay, next is I am going to explain the various verbal elements of children in adolescent literature. First is the writer purpose. An author purpose is the reason for an intent in writing. An author purpose may be amuse the reader, to persuade the reader, to inform the reader, or to satirize a condition. Number 2 is plot. The plot of a story defines a sequence of events that propels the reader from beginning to end. Storytellers have experimented with the plot of the story since the dawn of literature. No matter what genre you write, understanding the possibilities of plot structure as well as the different types of plot will help bring your stories to life. Next is style. Style in literature is the literary element that describes the ways that the author uses words. The author word choice, sentence structure, figurative language, and sentence arrangement all work together to establish mood, image, and meaning in the text. Next is themes. The term theme can be defined as the underlying meaning of a story. It is the message the writer is trying to convey through the story. Often the theme of a story is a broad message about life. The theme of a story is important because a story theme is a part of the reason why the author wrote the story. Next is, I will going to explain the various visual elements of children and adolescent literature. First is, a line is a unit of language into which a poem or play is divided. The use of line operates on principles which are distinct from and not necessarily coincident with grammatical structure, such as sentence or single clauses in sentences. Next is the color. Color symbolism in literature is when a writer uses color to represent something outside of its literal sense. Color is an essential tool in storytelling, having the power to instantly set a tone and mood. Next is texture. The concrete physical elements of prose or poetry that are separate from the structure or argument of the work, such as elements include metaphor, imagery, matter, and rhyme. Next is the literary design. It is focused on the writing, character, motivation, script, and screenplay, and things such as character and story motivation. I'm going to discuss the various types of characters. First is protagonist. Every story has a protagonist even if there's only one character throughout the entire book. They are the main character in a story, and it's their journey that we, the readers, follow as the plot develops. Next is antagonist, where there's a protagonist and antagonist must follow. These character types are usually the villain of the story, but this is not always clear straight. Next is the tertiary character. As we go down to the character here, you'll find tertiary characters. They are the supporting players in the story who will weave in and out of the narrative, interacting with the main characters at various points, but not necessarily contributing much on the plot. Next is the romantic interest. This is fairly self-explanatory. These characters are the object of the desire for another character. Usually the protagonist, although some interesting love triangles can happen between a romantic interest and protagonist and antagonist too. Next is I will going to discuss the characteristic of setting. First is the time period in which a story takes place. Next is the places where the action of a story occurs. And the cultural environment in which characters act. And also the character who interact with other characters. And the ideas that the author conveys about being human. And for the number 6 is the atmosphere created by description of the time and place. Next is the social rules and the government characteristics in a given time or place. And also we're going to discuss the 3 elements of plot. First is 3 elements of plot is the narrative order. It is the way or the order in which the writer chooses to unfold the story to the reader. Next is chronological events are related in the order of their happening. And flashbacks is a writer disrupts normal time sequence to recount some past event. And for the conflict, the struggles that the protagonist of the story faces, a person against self. It is a character typically faces an internal conflict which pulls him toward 2 courses of action. Next is a person against person. Involves a struggle between a character or characters and either social mores or cultural values or some things that law persons against nature involves a conflict between a character and some force or forces of nature. Next is a pattern of action. The pattern that the action of the story takes place to suspense, a state of the uncertainty about what events will happen in the story. And the climax. Climax is peak in a turning point of conflict, point at which the reader knows the outcomes of the action. Next is denouement. It is a resolution or trying together of the plot that gives the reader a sense of completeness at the end. Next is I will going to discuss the types of point of view. First is the person point of view. In the first person point of view, the reader accesses the story through one person. It's like reading the main character diary. You will notice pronouns that I, me, my, we, as, or, are, in. It's a first person writing. Next is the second person point of view. Second person point of view uses the pronoun you. This point of view establishes the reader as the protagonist or main character. It is the most difficult point of view to maintain in a longer pieces of creative writing. For the third person point of view, in third person point of view, the narrator, the ability to know everything, you'll see the pronouns he, his, she, her, or they, them, their, and it is. And for the third person point of view, this point of view allows for the greatest flexibility and also creates the most complexity. Next, I will going to discuss the various devices of style. First is diction, refers to the words that the writer chooses to use, the decision to use one word instead of another, even when they have similar meanings, change the reader's interpretations. And next is tone. Tone is a literal. And that's all for the module 5. Thank you for listening.